PHP is not an object-oriented language, but it does have considerable support for object-oriented programming. An object is a sophisticated data type that can store and manipulate values. Its characteristics are defined by a collection of functions and variables, collectively known as a class. Among PHP's built-in classes, the datetime and datetimezone classes are particularly useful. This is the datetime class page in the PHP Online manual. It lists the various methods or functions that a datetime object can access. For example, the add method allows you to do calculations with dates, for example, adding 10 days or 2 weeks or even 3 years. It will not only give you the new date, but also the day of the week that it falls on. Datetime objects not only store the date and time, they also store the time zone associated with the server that you're running on. So you've got the getTimeZone method, which gets you the time zone, or the setTimeZone method, which allows you to set the time zone to a different one. I don't intend to go through everything that you can do with the datetime and datetimezone classes. The purpose of this video is to explain how to create an instance of a class, to create an object, and how to access its methods. So let's go to my editor, and you store an object in an ordinary variable. So I'm going to create a variable called now, and then you create the object with the new keyword followed by the name of the constructor. So it's the datetime constructor that I want to use. So I've now instantiated a datetime object, and it's stored in a variable called now. To access an object's methods, you use a special operator. So now, and the operator is a hyphen followed immediately by a greater than sign. And my editor has given me all the methods available to my datetime object. The one that I want to use is this one, format, which, as you can imagine, formats the date. Unfortunately, the format method uses the same format strings as the PHP date function, and they're rather difficult to remember. I'll leave you to go to the online documentation to see all the details, but for the moment I'm just going to add in the format method, and the string that I want to use is capital FJ, comma, YH, colon IA. Now, believe it or not, that should give me a nicely formatted date. But to be able to display it, of course, I need to add in echo there. We'll just save that and load it into a browser. And you can see that I'm creating this at 8:36 p.m. on December the 8th. To show you some of the power of working with a datetime object, let's find out what the time would be in Tokyo. So first I need to create a datetimezone object. So Tokyo, and then the new keyword and the datetimezone constructor, which takes as its argument one of the datetimezone areas supported by PHP. They're all listed in the online documentation. It's Asia stroke Tokyo. So to change the time zone being used by my object, I can now do now, and then the special operator, and it will be set time zone. I need to pass it the Tokyo datetimezone object as its argument. And let's just display that. I'll copy this line here. And we'll add an HTML BR tag just to separate them. And save. And let's refresh the browser. So the time is now 8:39 in the evening in London on December the 8th. but in Tokyo it's 4:39 in the morning on the following day. I hope that's given you a little bit of an insight into the power of working with objects and classes. Don't worry if you find the concepts difficult to understand. The important points to remember are that you create an instance of an object using the new keyword and the class constructor. To access an object's methods, use the arrow operator, a hyphen followed by the greater than symbol. And one last point, major changes were made to objects and classes in PHP 5, making them incompatible with older versions of PHP. Don't use classes or objects that were designed for PHP 4.